In the vast open plains near the village of Gaugamela, a single moment changed the course of history forever. Imagine standing amid tens of thousands of warriors, facing a seemingly endless sea of enemy soldiers, war elephants, and scythed chariots. Outnumbered at least 5-1, the young Macedonian king Alexander the Great did not hesitate. He did not falter. Instead, he charged forward into the heart of the Persian army. This was no ordinary battle. It was a clash of titans, a final showdown between the relentless ambition of a young king and the crumbling might of one of history's greatest empires, the Achaemenid Persian Empire. The Battle of Gaugamela was not only a military engagement, it was the moment that carved Alexander's name into immortality and heralded the dawn of a new era. What would you do if faced with such impossible odds? Would you retreat? Or would you, like Alexander, charge into the storm and rewrite history? Welcome to History Tales. Today we travel back over 2 millennia to the year 331 BCE to explore the monumental Battle of Gaugamela, often called the decisive battle that ended the Persian Empire and propelled Alexander the Great to godlike status. Alexander's story is the stuff of legend. By his mid-20s, he had already conquered vast territories, defeated armies much larger than his own, and established control over Greece and Asia Minor. But his ambition was unyielding. His eyes were fixed on Persia, the empire that had ruled the known world for centuries. Opposing him was Darius III, the Persian king desperate to protect his lands, wealth, and legacy. With a colossal army, he was confident that sheer numbers would crush the Macedonian threat once and for all. But Gaugamela was different. It was not just a battle of swords and spears, it was a battle of wits, courage, and leadership. Today, we uncover how Alexander's genius and boldness overcame impossible odds, forever changing the fate of the ancient world. Was Alexander's victory destiny, or the result of meticulous planning and unmatched tactical brilliance? 1. The road to Gaugamela. The rise of Alexander began long before he faced Darius on the battlefield. Macedonia, under his father Philip II, had transformed from a relatively insignificant kingdom into a military powerhouse. Philip's innovations, such as the phalanx formation, armed with long sarissa spears, revolutionized warfare and created a disciplined army capable of unmatched flexibility. At just 20 years old, Alexander inherited this powerful army and an empire brimming with potential but also political instability. His first challenge was to secure his rule in Greece, which he did decisively, silencing rebellions and uniting the Greek city-states under his command. Turning his gaze east, Alexander launched his campaign against the Persian Empire in 334 BCE. His early battles, like the Battle of the Granicus River, showcased his boldness and ability to adapt, winning decisive victories against larger forces. Yet it was the Battle of Issus in 333 BCE that truly shook the Persian king. There, Alexander's smaller army defeated Darius's much larger force, forcing the Persian king to flee and abandoning his family to capture. Despite these defeats, Darius was not yet broken. Instead, he raised a new, larger army, determined to crush Alexander once and for all. He chose the open plains near Gaugamela for the decisive fight, confident that the flat terrain would give his cavalry and chariots an overwhelming advantage. Alexander knew this would be his greatest challenge. He spent weeks preparing his troops, studying the terrain, and devising a plan that would rely not just on strength, but on deception and speed. Was Darius's confidence a fatal flaw, or was he simply bound by the weight of his empire's traditions? The opposing forces. Alexander's army at Gaugamela numbered approximately 47,000 men, a mix of seasoned Macedonian phalanx infantry, elite companion cavalry, archers, light infantry, and engineers. His troops were battle-hardened, highly disciplined, and had immense faith in their leader's skill and vision. In stark contrast, Darius commanded an enormous army, estimated at anywhere between 100,000 and 250,000 men. It was a melting pot of soldiers from across the vast Persian Empire, including cavalry from Persia, Bactria, and Sogdiana, thousands of infantry from across the empire, Indian war elephants, and the infamous scythed chariots designed to break enemy lines. To maximize his advantage, Darius ordered the ground to be cleared and leveled around Gaugamela to allow his chariots and cavalry to operate freely and charge with devastating force. Despite their overwhelming numbers and equipment, the Persian army lacked the cohesion, training, and unity of Alexander's forces. Alexander's troops were like a well-oiled machine, each part knowing its role perfectly and capable of adapting to the chaos of battle. Was it better to be vast and varied, or small and precise? 3. The battle plan. Alexander's strategic mind was perhaps his greatest weapon. Knowing that Darius would use his numerical advantage to surround and crush the Macedonians, Alexander crafted a plan that relied heavily on deception. He deployed his forces in a formation designed to appear weaker on his right flank, baiting Darius into attacking there. Alexander's left wing, led by the trusted general Parmenion, held firm but flexible. Once the Persian cavalry committed to the flank, Alexander would use his elite companion cavalry to punch through the Persian center, directly targeting Darius himself. This was a risky gamble. A single misstep, and the Macedonian army could be encircled and destroyed. But Alexander's troops had trained relentlessly for this moment. They were prepared to act quickly, decisively, and without hesitation. What would you do when the plan depends on your absolute trust in your leader and your comrades? 4. Clash of Empires. The battle unfolds. The dawn of the battle saw a tense silence broken only by the sound of thousands of feet marching forward. The Persians unleashed their cavalry against Alexander's right flank, just as expected. The Macedonian troops engaged in fierce combat, buying time and space for Alexander's decisive move. Suddenly, Alexander led his companion cavalry in a wedge formation, charging straight into the Persian center with breathtaking speed and precision. The shock was devastating. Persian lines buckled as Alexander pushed toward Darius, creating chaos and panic. Witnessing the collapse of his center and fearing capture, Darius fled the battlefield for the second time in his life. His flight shattered Persian morale, and their lines began to crumble. Meanwhile, on the Macedonian left, Parmenion was hard-pressed, his forces nearly overwhelmed by the superior Persian cavalry. Alexander, realizing the danger, made a difficult but vital decision. He abandoned his pursuit of Darius to reinforce his left flank, saving thousands of his men from destruction. This decision demonstrated not only tactical brilliance, but leadership and care for his soldiers. Would you risk everything to chase your enemy, or would you protect the lives of your men? 5. Aftermath. Fall of the Achaemenid Empire. With Darius's flight and the collapse of his army, the Persian Empire effectively ceased to exist. Alexander marched into Babylon to be greeted not as a conqueror, but as a liberator, a stark contrast to the violent reputation of many ancient rulers. Despite his youth, Alexander was now the undisputed ruler of an empire stretching from Greece to Egypt and deep into Asia. Darius was betrayed and assassinated by his own satraps months later, removing the final obstacle to Alexander's expansion. This victory was more than just a military triumph. It was the dawn of a new political and cultural era where East and West would collide and blend. Was Alexander's conquest a liberation for the peoples of Persia, or simply the start of another empire's rule? 6. Legacy of Gaugamela. The Battle of Gaugamela remains a cornerstone of military history, studied in academies worldwide for its brilliant tactics and leadership lessons. Alexander's conquest spread Greek culture far beyond its original borders, creating the Hellenistic world, a fusion of Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian influences. His boldness inspired generations of generals, from Julius Caesar to Napoleon. Yet, Alexander's empire fractured soon after his death at 32, raising questions about the sustainability of such rapid conquest. Still, the world he shaped, the cities he founded, the cultural exchanges he fostered, changed history forever. Did Alexander win Gaugamela, or did he ignite a chain of conflicts that reshaped the ancient world? What is greatness? Is it the power to conquer, the wisdom to lead, or the courage to charge into impossible odds? At Gaugamela, Alexander showed us that leadership, vision, and bravery can overturn even the mightiest empires. If you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest battles, subscribe to History Tales for more epic stories from the past. And now we leave you with a question. If you were on the battlefield of history, whose side would you stand on?